So I'm starting with this. So first of all, I know that I have a very strong French accent. So in some time you don't understand some word, it's because you are improving your knowledge of French. So I like this slide. It was given by a colleague. So there is a mother and her son, okay? And so they discuss, and after some time, the mother is saying to the son, no, you were not downloaded, okay? You were born, okay? So I like it because not everything can be done with a computer, okay? Okay, that's important. And now we are in a society in which a lot of people are thinking as soon as you have a laptop, you can solve any problem, okay? If you don't succeed, please take two laptops. If it doesn't work, take 3 laptops, etc., okay? So we know that there are possibility result and impossibility result. So that's important. So I will give you an historical perspective first, okay? So I will try to give you what for me is informatics, okay? So I don't like the word computer science, okay, even if it is used in a lot of places. So I don't know in Russian, how do you say in Russian? Informatic? Yeah. So in Latin country and in Germany, we are using the word informatic, okay? Because when you have 2 words, computer and science, in this domain, but in a lot of domains, as soon as you have 2 words, unfortunately, they are not equal. One is more important than the other one, okay? So it's computer or science that is important, okay? In informatics, you have only 1 word, it means 1 concept, okay? That's important. So I will give you a short historical perspective first, okay? So that my personal point of view. So I don't ask you to agree, okay? But I ask you to have a view, okay? That's important. And then, so I will go after at distributed computing, distributed construction, okay? So first of all, I need to advertise my book as Nir and Maurice, of course. So I wrote this book on concurrent programming, so actually it covers exactly a lot of topics that have been addressed in this school, but in this school you have also more research, okay? It was more research-oriented, so with new idea. So concurrent programming, algorithm, principle, and foundation, okay, it appeared at Springer a few years ago. So in this book you have the following. So there is 100 pages on lot-based synchronization, okay? So there's things that are well-known, master words that are in any cursus, okay, in any master degree. You learn that. Then the atomic concept. And then all the rest of the book is on mutex-free, what I call mutex-free, or okay, synchronization, okay? So you cannot use locks, okay? So Rashid Gerawi presents this kind of thing, and other people also, okay? And for example, the part presented by Rashid from safe bit to atomic register, okay? All this part is devoted to this topic, okay? And also the computability power of concurrent object. I will address that in this talk. And of course, I cannot resist to the fact that we have also this book, another book. So this one is on distributed algorithm for message passing system. So in this one, so in the previous one, we have shared memory, okay? Multi-core shared memory. We communicate using a shared memory, okay? And in this one, we communicate on a network, on top of a network by using message passing, okay? So there are distinct ways. But in this book, so it's 500 pages, you have all the basics on distributed algorithm in message passing system without failure, no failure, okay? The simple case, okay? A book on the same with failure will appear, I hope, in the next year. So in this case, we have, for example, distributed graph algorithm, okay? We have a graph, we want to communicate, we want to solve problem, okay, on top of a graph. Logical time, okay, mutual exclusion, etc. So let us enter the more technical part today. So that's an historical perspective, okay, of what is informatics for me. Okay, so I'm repeating, that's my view. Maybe you disagree, okay? The problem is not in the fact you disagree. The problem will be in the fact that you have no view. Okay, that's not the same, it's totally different. Okay? So, actually from the very beginning, I don't know, so we are looking for universality in a lot of domains, okay? We are looking to have life as simple as possible, okay? And so you need to have the right concept to solve the problem, okay? So it is, so for example, so a long time ago, I don't know if you know this tablet, I think is in London in the British Museum. So the famous Plimpton tablet, okay, 322. So it was 3 millennia ago, okay, a long time ago. Actually, in this tablet, you have line, and the 15 lines, and they are the first 15 Pythagorean triplets, okay? A, B, so maybe A, B, and C, okay? The relation A squared plus B squared equals C squared, okay? That's okay? So they knew that, okay? They knew this kind of thing, okay? So to compute that, you need an algorithm, okay? In some way or another, you need an algorithm, okay? So algorithm, it seems they were born with writing, okay? When we write, we need to know how to write, how to describe a recipe, okay? I'm doing that and that and that, okay? So at this time, it was only recipe, okay? There was no formalization, okay? No proof, okay? There is no proof, there is no, the second tablet, exercise, prove it is correct. So the proof it is correct was only to show this instance was correct, okay? They don't have a theorem, say, for the algorithm producing that, okay? For all the case is correct. So then, so people interested in the history of science, because I think that's important, the history of science, okay? You have to produce science, to do science, but we are not the first one, okay, to do science, okay? So you have these people interested, this guy, he was published a long time ago. He was a specialist of the exact science in antiquity, okay? It's a very nice book. You have also this book by Kramer, Noah Kramer, okay, it's about, so history begin at summer, okay, 39 first in months recorded history, okay. As you know, so hieroglyph, okay, the first writing we know are hieroglyph, okay, and he was at this time, okay. And you have also this nice article by Donald Knuth, okay, Ancient Babylonian Algorithm, okay. So if you're interested in history, so let us continue a little bit later, okay, after what is called summer year, today is Iraq, okay? Baghdad, it was this part of the world. So, but a little bit later, okay, still in the ancient time, you have a great step, Euclid. All of us, we know Euclid, okay? So what's the big difference with Euclid? Euclid, among a lot of things, he was interested by how to build something, a geometrical figure, okay, with a compass and the ruler. Each of us learned how to do that at the school, okay? And so ruler and compass define, so you have operation, a ruler and a compass, okay? That's my operation. It's not plus, minus, or divide, okay? What can be built, okay? And also, it introduced algorithm, okay? The construction, but also the proof. And that's the big step, okay? At the Babylon time, it was only a recipe, okay? Now we have the proof, the algorithm, and the recipe. So, certainly all of us know this basic classical example. So how to bisect an angle, okay? You have an angle, you want to divide into angle, okay? This is known, we learned that at school. So that's the angle, okay? A and the two sides of the angle. So the algorithm is the following. You take a compass, okay, and you draw a part, okay? So you have B and C, the cutting point, okay? So by definition, I'm doing the proof at the same time, okay? AB equal AC, because it's the same radius. Okay. Now, what I'm doing, second step in the algorithm, I'm doing another radius, taking another radius, tracing this circle, okay? And this one with the same radius, okay, R2, okay? And the radius is such that the two circles intersect, okay? They meet at some point, okay? And then, so this is done. So we have this side equals this side equals this side, okay? Because radius. And then I'm drawing the line going from here to here, okay? And I claim this angle is equal to this angle, okay? That's the result of the algorithm. And the end of the proof is, to prove it, you prove that the triangle ABD and ADC are equal. If they are equal, the corresponding angle are equal, okay? So this is R1, you remember? This one is R2, and this one is the same for both triangles. So the two triangles are equal. So conclusion, this line bisects the angle, okay? So we have an algorithm and we have a proof it is correct, okay? So a lot of people, now we are thinking that with a laptop you can solve everything. At this time we were thinking that with a ruler and a compass, it was possible to build any geometrical figure, okay? Fortunately, this is not possible. It was one of the hardest problems for ancient Greek, squaring the circle, okay? You know that. And that's impossible, okay? They were thinking it was possible, they tried, but it was not possible. And actually, so that's an impossibility result. One of the first impossibility results, okay, for algorithm, is impossible sorry, I forgot. I want to trisect, not an algorithm, to trisect an angle, okay? Share the angles, okay, to cut it in 3 equal angles, okay? So that's impossible, okay? And that was this, squaring the circle. And this impossibility was shown, okay, so in 1837, okay, at this time, okay, by Van Zel, and actually he was a French researcher this time, so looking for the mean to recognize if a geometrical problem can be solved with the ruler and the compass, okay? And he shows the answer, okay? He shows this problem, he shows only the ruler and the compass is impossible to trisect an angle, okay? But as you know, it's possible to divide an angle in 4 equal parts. You do twice the division by 2, okay? But it's not possible to divide an angle in 6 equal parts, okay? Okay, so the ruler and the compass operation are not universal. That's the result, okay? Problem, I want to build any geometrical figure, well defined in the geometrical sense, okay? That's not possible with this operation, okay? With my laptop, basic laptop, okay? So then, a little bit later, so there is this person, so Al-Khwarizmi. So he contributed actually to algebra. He was very strong, this guy. He contributed in one domain, and he gave his domain to another domain. Okay? And now we know, so he contributed to the name algorithm, okay? But I think he never designed an algorithm in his life, okay? So the book he designed were, so the most important is this one, Addition and Subtraction from Indian Calculus, actually. Actually, he understood very well Indian Calculus, and he wrote this book. Okay. More recently, in our domain, there is this guy, okay? And so Turing, he shows that I give you read-write, okay, object rewrite, a tape, we can read the tape, you can write on the tape, okay? That's the 2 basic operations, read and write, that's all, okay? What can you solve? And there is a famous Church-Turing conjecture, okay, saying, anything that can be computed with a laptop can be computed, okay, from a Turing machine, okay? Now, Turing was not the only one, he was the first, the most famous, but do you know these people? So this one, you don't know. So he's not Ronaldo, okay? He's not Messi. So this one is Church, Alonzo Church, okay? Lambda calculus. So he introduced lambda calculus, and then it was shown that the computability power of lambda calculus and Turing machine are equivalent. So you can solve something with a Turing machine, you can do with the lambda calculus, and vice versa, okay? And this one is less known. You don't know, you never met him in the street, no? So he's not Macron, he's not Putin, he's not Trump, okay? He's Emil Post. I don't know if you know Post system, okay? So he introduced the formalism, Post system, and it was shown that his formalism has exactly the same power as lambda calculus of Turing machine, okay? Okay? So Post system, lambda calculus, and Turing machine seems to be the ultimate point, okay, we can attain to solve a problem by a sequential algorithm, okay? So for me, algorithmics, okay, is a science of operation, okay? I give you some operation, and my question is, can you solve this problem, yes or no? Of course, we are scientific, we don't want to solve one problem, we want to solve a class of problems, okay? So with this formalism, which class of problem can we solve, okay? So as you know, if I give you the formalism of final state automaton, we know today exactly what can be computed and what cannot be computed, okay? With the final state automaton. So we have a nice result. So we are not mathematicians, we are not physicists, we are not working in chemistry, we are not working in medicine, we are informaticians working in informatics, and we have great results. For example, this hierarchy, okay? Finite state automata is included in Pushdown automata, included in Turing machine, okay? That's a strong result, a strong hierarchy. Church-Turing thesis, okay? Everything that can be computed with the Turing machine, okay? And we have something that is also very important. A long time ago, for example, a book was something like that, a big one, it was a book, okay? So you have, and now what is a book, okay? So today, due to the universality of informatics, we have a universality of data representation, okay? At the end, it's a sequence of bits. It is a movie, it is an image, okay? It is a Bible, whatever it is a sequence of bits at the end, okay? So this universality actually is very powerful, okay? We can analyze, we can do a lot of things because it's a very unique formalism, okay? So on one side, on the power of operation, Turing machine, on the other side, a unique formalism to describe anything that can be described, okay? Sequence of bits. If people are interested, there is a very nice book by David Harel and Feldman, Algorithmic, the Spirit of Computing, okay? It's a very nice book, okay, if you like this kind of thing. So now my view of informatics is the following. So informatics is a science, of course. At the heart of the science, there is algorithm, okay? And then you have a lot of application in the digital world, okay? So why people ask me, why you place algorithm at the center? So the answer is trivial. If you suppress algorithm, what does it remain? Okay? If you suppress algorithm, everything collapses. Okay? Even if you are working on software engineering, okay? Because you are assembling box, piecing together box is okay, but if there is nothing inside the box, there is no algorithm, okay? So that really is the center, okay? Now, about informatics, let us continue. So, if you look at the evolution, up to the mid of the 20th century, what was important in science was to master energy as a matter, okay? Physics and chemistry were very important, okay? And from the mid of the 20th century, actually, is information now. The most important resource is information. Okay? When you look at the people working in the society, okay, there are more and more people working in informatics, okay, than the other domain, okay. If you do studies in informatics, you have a job. If you do study in chemistry, it's more difficult, okay. So as matter and energy, so if you replace information or matter energy, you are using this word, or information, okay. So matter energy can be collected, okay, can be consumed, can be transformed, can be stored, can be carried, okay? Now, information can be collected, it can be consumed, transformed, stored, carried, okay? Database, data center, etc. Okay? And differently from matter energy, okay, information does not burn. Okay? You can do copy, okay? You have a key, I can give you the key, you have a copy, okay? And the cost is nearly zero cost, okay? So that dramatical change, okay, in the way we have to see resource. What is the resource now, okay? And we are looking for universality, so that's important. We'll see that later. So, I think all of you are convinced. Today, about informatics, this science is producing a new way of thinking, okay? So people who know what is an algorithm, okay, they know programming, okay, the way of thinking is not exactly the same as you are doing only physics or chemistry, okay? That's important. Okay? And in another, if you look at science, until, so mid-century, okay, this date, okay, the aim of science actually was to understand the world, okay, and to capture the world with equation. In chemistry, so H square plus O, okay, equal water, H2O, okay, this kind of thing, okay. Or in physics, okay, you have E equal mc square, okay. Okay, you have this kind of thing. So the aim was to capture things and to say, I understand because I'm able to produce an equation, okay. Now, you have a lot, we know that we have a lot of things that cannot be captured by an equation, okay. It's impossible to have an equation, okay, capturing, okay, in a formula, a result, okay. And now, the aim of science, okay, so is to put the world into algorithm, okay, because it's much more powerful. Of course, an algorithm includes formula, okay, but it's not a formula, okay. The difference, you have a computation to do, and you can simulate, etc., okay. And in some sense, today, informatics is becoming the language of science, of any science, okay. I don't know a scientific domain in which they don't program, they don't use informatics to understand and to progress, okay. So in that sense, our domain, informatics, is the heart of science, okay, is the language of science, okay. Galileo said, mathematics is the language of nature, okay. So that's nearly the same, okay, but for science, okay. If you want to now to go further, okay, to progress, you need to use informatics, okay. So it's a mean for them. So a person working in physics is using mathematics as a tool, informatics as a tool, okay, and it's producing physics. But without informatics, usually they are doing nothing, okay. So that's important to see that. Now, so let us enter to more technical part, from sequential computing to distributed computing. So what is in sequential computing? Basically, the atom or the molecule, depends on the granularity. Okay? The notion of, we have the notion of function that is important. Okay? So you have an input in a function, and I want to compute out equal f of in. Okay? For example. And that's, for some problem, it can be done only with an algorithm. For example, if I give you which is the decimal number 1 million of pi, okay? You need to compute. Okay? You need a computation, an algorithm. So the notion of computation. So for that we know very well now what is the notion of computation. We know what is impossible or possible or impossible. Okay, for the function. And I'm repeating, we have this nice hierarchy, okay? And we have a lot of results. And this is a theoretical result where it produced before practical application appear. In our domain, Turing defined nearly everything, okay, in sequential computing before application appear. Now in our domain, there is a problem. We have a lot of applications. We try to solve them, but we don't have the tool to master them, okay? So, now, so the first. So here, we want to compute something, okay? So there is one way to implement the function. We have a more processor, so it's the domain of sequential computing. Or I can say, oh, maybe if I have a multiprocessor, okay, I can be more efficient, okay? So we divide the job in several parts, okay, in order to be efficient, okay? But when we do that, this applies only to problems. Okay, the problem could be solved, okay, by a sequential algorithm. Okay, we are using parallelism, okay, to have an efficient algorithm. Okay, to be efficient. Okay, the problem could be if we eliminate the problem of time. Okay, we need. Okay, the problem can be solved sequentially. Okay. But to be efficient, we are using parallel algorithm. Okay? So parallel computing, you can see that as an extension of sequential computing, okay? To favor efficiency. Of course, when I'm saying extension, it's not limiting. Okay, I don't want to say it's nothing. It's not at all that. You have concepts related to parallelism, for example, task graph, scheduling, etc. That's very important. Okay? But the aim is to be efficient. Okay? And the problem could have been solved by a sequential algorithm. Okay? Now, in distributed computing. In distributed computing, it's different. So distributed computing arises when you have to solve a problem in terms of entities, okay? So nodes of a network, agent, processor, sensor, peer, whatever the name, you have computing entities, okay? And each computing entity has some input parameter, okay? So suppose, for example, we have a distributed system, okay? And we have our salary, okay? So my input is my salary, your input is your salary. Suppose all of us have a salary, okay? You don't know my salary. I don't know your salary, okay? But suppose my job, my personal output will be the average salary, okay? And suppose your output with the same set of input is to compute the minimal salary. And another one, the greatest salary, okay? So each of us, we need the same set of input, but I know only a part of the input, not all the input, okay? So the input are distributed. And this is not a design choice, it's imposed, okay? We have no choice. The input are distributed. And today, the distributed application are the real distributed application are the application in which the input are distributed, okay? For example, instead of the salary, you take the temperature, okay, you have a network of sensors, okay? Each sensor has a temperature of the location where it is, okay? And so the problem is inherently distributed, okay? So that's important. So actually, distributed computing is about mastering uncertainty, okay? This will be more apparent later. So it's not to, of course, we want to be efficient, but the difficult problem, okay, is I know only my input, I don't know your input, okay? So if there are no failure, it's trivial. We send all the input data to one of us, he computes everything, and then disseminates the result, okay? So of course, as soon as there are failure, okay, the problem becomes much more difficult and sometimes impossible. So, this can be formalized. I will not insist too much on that, okay? So you have so what we call an input vector, so a processor P1, P2, Pn, and processor. The input of process Pi is in I. It has to compute an output out I, okay? And so the output out I, okay, is a relation, okay, linking, okay, this output depend on all of a subset of the input, okay? So the important point is the fact that the input of Pi does not depend only on its input. Otherwise, it will be a sequential problem, okay? Nothing is distributed, okay? You have distinct things, okay? So the inputs are distributed, they are not under the control of the algorithm, okay? And the failure in distributed system, the failure have to be included in the model, okay? So suppose, for example, suppose that's an intuition, okay? It's not a proof. Suppose we want to, the system is asynchronous, okay? We can send message, okay, and receive message. Suppose no message is lost, no message is corrupted, okay, so the problem are not coming from the network, okay? And now, unfortunately, some of us may crash, okay? I send you a message, are you here? And I don't, after 10 years, I don't have an answer. So maybe you crash. So, before receiving my message, okay, send the answer, okay? Or maybe you have not yet received my message because the network is asynchronous, okay? Or maybe you are very slow, okay? So I'm unable to know if you crash or if the system is very slow and you have to wait more, okay? So if I decide after 10 years, oh, I stop waiting. I take a very important decision, okay? And then I receive your message. And unfortunately, the decision I took was the wrong one, according to your input. Okay? Second possibility, I remain waiting, okay? But if you crash, you never send an answer, I will wait forever, okay? So either you compromise the safety, the meaning of what you have to compute, or you remain blocked, okay? And this has nothing to do with the power of the processor. If it is a final set automaton or a Turing machine, is the same, okay? It does not change. It is related to the fact that we have to communicate, okay? So this can be formalized maybe as skipping. I know it's the time of the siesta usually now, it's 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock. So, a distributed algorithm is a set of n local automata, so Turing machine. I am a processor, I have a text to execute, an automaton, and you do the same, okay? And we need to cooperate, okay, to compute my result, to compute your result, okay? And the communication medium is either message passing, okay, or share memory, anyway. So multi-core or message passing, okay? Things are not exactly the same, but very similar. An algorithm A solves a task T. Okay, so I forgot to say that this is called, in the terminology, a notion of task, okay? A task. Okay, it's a relation between input and output. This has been introduced a long time ago now, I don't remember, maybe 15 years ago. And some people who introduced the notion of task, there was Elie Gavny, Maurice Herlihy, Nir Shavit, etc. They introduced these objects, okay, to understand what is distributed computing. A task. So it's not a stack with the meaning of a thread, okay? It's another meaning. So an algorithm solves a task, okay, T, if in any run, okay, there is an input vector, okay, each PI starts with his input, okay, so a position I of the input vector, and there is an output vector, okay, defined by the task T, delta of E, how it is transformed, okay, such that you obtain, process PJ, obtain its output, okay? So there is a good matching. So, now, so we are a human being, even if we formalize a lot of things, even in science you have birth certificate, okay? For example, for the summertime, before writing, after writing, okay? This part is prehistory, this part is history. That's the definition. History starts with writing. Now, so in distributed computing, you have two papers that are basic paper. So the first one is by Leslie Lamport, okay, time, clock, and the ordering of events in a distributed system, okay? So it's an old paper, as you can see, but in this paper, he introduced a lot of things. He shows that, and now this is presented in an NetF book, textbook, okay? It's trivial. Exactly, when you learn operating system of synchronization, you learn the concept of a process, semaphores or something else, etc., okay? And now it's trivial. It's very simple. But this is due to Dijkstra. There is before Dijkstra and after Dijkstra, okay? Before Dijkstra, the process of concept of a process was not existing. Okay? And the concept of synchronization was not existing, okay? And Dijkstra was the first to propose this notion. So now it's trivial, okay? It's so evident, okay? So trivial. But so what was an operating system before Dijkstra? It was a set of things, of technique, and there were no course on operating system. So what was a course on operating system was a description of system number 1, system number 2, system number 3, okay? And after Dijkstra, we could say, okay, during the 10 first lecture, I give the concept, and then during a few lectures, I'm describing a particular case, okay? That's totally different. And the concept of state machine, okay? So that's important for the rest of the talk. And there is another paper, so FLP, Fisher, Lynch, and Patterson, who proved that it was the first proof, non-trivial proof, that some problems are impossible, okay? And the problem they show is impossible, I'll describe it, is consensus. This was sketched by Rashid Garawi in his talk, okay? So this is impossible, and unfortunately, it has a lot of practical application, consensus, okay? So, there is a famous quote, okay, also, explaining this impossibility result. It was a famous quote by Lamport. Lamport says one day, a distributed system is one in which the failure of a computer you didn't even know existed, okay, can render your own computer unusable. Okay? So that's humoristic, okay? But that's exactly, that's the formalization actually of this intuition, okay? So I'm repeating, what is difficult is uncertainty. What means uncertainty means non-determinism. And to solve non-determinism is never easy, okay? So to conclude this part, this introduction, so when you have to solve a problem, so if the main point in your application is to have actions that are produced not too early, not too late, on time, okay, there is a window, time window, okay, that's real time. If you want to be efficient, it's parallelism, okay? So you divide the job in several parts, okay? But there are limitations, as you know, in parallelism, there are limitations, okay? So I'm always taking the same example. Let us assume that the pregnancy period for a baby, okay, is a computation process. In some sense, it's a computation process, okay? From a biological point of view, it's a computation process, okay? So suppose, for some reason, people, they want to have a baby very quickly. So instead of one woman, they take, during 9 months, okay, they want to try to use 9 women during 1 month. It doesn't work. Okay? So you have, let us say, in the technology, okay, you have a limitation, okay? Assuming, so don't say I am a machist guy, okay? That was only an example, okay? So now I want to speak about universal construction, okay, in crash-prone shared memory system, okay? So the way we are distributed application and processes, you have your input, I have my input, each of us, we need to compute something. So the system is asynchronous, okay? So you proceed to your speed, I proceed to my speed. And asynchronous is usually also called time-free, okay? Why? Because we have no physical notion of time. Time is the resource we need to execute, okay? But there is no semantic of time, okay? We don't have an object, okay? We cannot compute the duration, for example, okay? You proceed to your speed, to my speed. I don't know your speed, you don't know my speed, okay? Your speed can vary according with time, okay? You can be very rapid at some time and very slow at other time, okay? But we are using shared memory. So basically, the way to communicate, we are reading and writing a shared memory for the moment, okay? So that's the most basic object, okay, in informatics, a read-write register. And on, so asynchrony, read-write, and crash. So a process or a node may crash. So what is a crash? The process, it is executing correctly, and after some point, maybe it never crash, okay? But it is possible, after some point, it crash, okay? So crash means definitive halt, okay? There is no recovery, etc., okay? So that's the model. So for that, I will introduce first, so a few vocabulary we need. What is a universal construction? Because we want to solve the problem, so we need first to state the problem, okay? And then I will introduce a simple universal construction based on 2 operations, okay? Hardware operation. So it's not a ruler and compass, okay? It's a machine, okay? I can read, write, and we'll see additional hardware operation, okay? And then I will see, when we have this first universal construction, we'll try to have more sophisticated universal construction, okay? So more sophisticated can be in 2 senses, okay? Either we want to add property to the universal construction, okay? Or we don't want to add properties, we want to have efficient implementation, okay? On the implementation side, okay? And then we'll see other point, okay? So for people who are interested, this actually was published in the bulletin of the European Association of Theoretical Computer Science. So it was written last year, it appeared this year. So everything I will present, okay, is inside, okay? So first, I will first introduce the problem, okay? And you understand this sentence after, at the end of the talk, when you piece together all your understanding, okay? But this sentence, for me, is very important, okay? On one side, so maybe the best, so on the sequential computing side, okay? What you learn at school. In sequential system, computability is understood through the Church-Turing thesis, okay? It means that anything that can be computed with a Turing machine, okay? Or a POS system or lambda calculus, as you want, because they are equivalent, okay? So that's important. Now, in distributed system, on distributed computing, okay? Actually, it's totally different. Computation requires coordination. You remember a task, okay? My input, my output depend a subset of the input, and only mine, okay? So computation requires coordination among multiple participants, okay? And it's not a design choice, it's imposed to us. Computability questions have a different flavor, okay? Here, too, there are many problems that are not computable, okay? So, for example, here, the main famous problem that cannot be solved, important in practice, is halting problem, okay? If we're able to solve the halting problem, okay, all the compiler will do the result, they compile, and they say, oh, there is a mistake in your program, okay? There are cases in which it does not terminate, okay? That would be very nice. No, that's impossible to design such a compiler. So here is different, so the impossibilities are not the same nature as the one in sequential computing, but they are related to the limit, to the difficulty of making decision in face of ambiguity. I can translate in presence of non-determinism, okay? And this has nothing to do with the computational power of individual participants, okay? So you have some problems that are impossible, and they remain impossible if you say, oh, okay, that's a laptop, that's a good approximation of a Turing machine, okay? And I replace it by something more powerful than a Turing machine, okay? It's still impossible, okay? So this has to be understood. Okay, so now we are entering a little bit into technical detail. So, process and failure model. So I'm repeating n processes that are asynchronous, P1, Pn. Asynchronous means no assumption on the speed, okay? And I am also, on the failure model, I am assuming t is smaller than n over 1, okay? Smaller or equal, sorry. So all the processes, except one, may crash, okay? So this assumption was used by Rashid Geraoui when he presented Initial 2 days ago. So for the vocabulary, if a process crashes in a run, I will say it is faulty, okay? If a process does not crash, I will say it is non-faulty or correct, okay? So if a process is executing, this is with respect to a run. This means that to know if a process is faulty or non-faulty, I need to wait the end of the run. So the process that crash in the run are faulty, the other one were correct or non-faulty, okay? Can you speak loud? So, smaller than n. Actually, as usual, okay, you choose. It's not a mistake from me, of course. It's either a typo, okay, or something I introduced to observe that at least one of you is following what I'm saying. So the communication model, okay, I'm repeating, we communicate with read-write register, and these registers are atomic, okay? I will explain in the transparency, okay? So this is atomicity, also called linearizability, okay? They are synonyms, okay? The same meaning, exactly the same meaning, okay? So historically, atomicity was introduced first for read-write register a long time ago by Lamport, okay? And then this notion has been extended by Maurice Early and Janet Wing, okay? And they call it to not only to read-write register, but to stack to a lot of other objects, and it's called linearizability. And the notation I will use, so I will use this notation, crash, asynchronous, read-write communication, and processes, okay? And for the moment, empty set means no additional assumption, okay? That's the basic model, okay? Nothing more. So, what I mean by atomic read-write register. So atomic read-write register, so that's an execution of a register R, okay? Read, return 1, write 1, write 2, write 3, read 2, read 3, okay? So the question, is it correct or not, this execution, okay? So atomicity, when I'm considering this consistency condition, means that it is correct if everything appears as if the operation has been executed sequentially, one after the other, okay? And each operation, okay, so there is an omniscient observer, okay, you see everything, and each operation appears as if it has been executed between its beginning and its end, okay? So this one appears as it has been executed atomically at this point. Okay? This one at this point, etc. Okay? So here the value is 1, so the read return 1, up to now it's okay. And here you have two writes, they are concurrent, okay? But they appear, they'll be executed in some order. I don't know which one. Non-determinism, okay? Either this one today, maybe this one tomorrow. So this one appears as it has been executed here, okay, between its start and its end. So now the value is 2. And this one appears as it has been executed here. So from here, the value is 3, okay? And this read appears, it returns 2, so it appears as if it has been executed here. And here is between its start and its end, okay? So it's okay. And finally, this one returns 3, okay? So everything appears, okay, as we have write 1, read 1, write 3, write 2, okay, read 2, write 3, read 3, okay? And that's consistent with the sequential specification of the register. So, in the following, I will discuss, I said, read-write register, but one transparency on message passing model, okay? So what I will discuss can be applied to message passing or not. So we suppose in message passing that you have a complete point-to-point network. So any process can send a message to any other process, okay? Any node to any node. There is no bound on transfer delay, but finite. Messages are not lost, no corruption, etc. No duplication. And in the presence of up to T failure, so if T processes crash, okay, we have the following. So in the crash failure model, actually, the read-write model can be simulated if, in the message passing model, if and only if T is smaller than n over 2, okay? So it means that if you want to simulate, to build a file, read-write, okay? Read-write is a register, okay, read-write. On top of a network message passing, okay, and to have the semantic I described, atomicity, so the file has to be atomic, everything appears as the read and write operation of the file have been produced one after the other, okay, then this is possible if and only if, in both directions, necessary and sufficient condition, a minority of processes crash, no more, okay? So if half or more processes may crash, there is no solution. No bound. When I'm saying no bound, I want to say there is no bound. An example, okay? Suppose the first message I send is taking, as implementation, 1 time unit to arrive, okay? The second message is taking 2 time units. The third message I'm sending is taking 3 time units, etc., okay? As you can see, there is no bound, okay? Okay. So there is a difference between finite and bounded. Okay. And then when you write an algorithm, when it is bounded, there is a difference. I know the bound or I don't know the bound. I know it is bounded, but I don't know which is the bound. Or I know it is bounded and I know the value of the bound. Okay.